All right. Thank you so much, Susan. This has been so wonderful to be here and teach this topic because it is one of my favorites. And I'm so happy that you invited me to the Four Corners Wellness Summit. I'm so honored to be a part of all the presenters here this weekend. So let me begin. You know, this is an interesting topic and a very important one. It's one of my favorites because I think that the aura itself is so important. I think it's almost important than vitamins, taking vitamins itself. You know, we're living in a time right now. We have just come out of 2020, going into 2021, and we really have to up level ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves so that we don't get sick. You know, there are so many toxins going around in our environment today. They say that there is even like almost 500 times more toxins in the environment than was in our grandparents' day and age. That's a lot. And so today I want to help you understand what the aura, our biofield, our electromagnetic energy kind of protection suit around us is, and help you strengthen it and also connect in with the children, the next generation. And maybe you work with children and maybe you have children of your own. It's so important to connect with them and their aura because they are growing beings. Their physical body is growing, but their aura, their electromagnetic activity, the energy field around them is also developing. And I'm going to explain that to you today. I'm also going to give you some of mine and my mother, Donna Eden. She's the holistic health pioneer that really created her form of energy medicine way back in the 70s. And a lot of people have been following her ever since. And this is comes from a lot of her work. And this is what we teach in her certification program. And it's so fascinating. It's so exciting. And I want to say that I remember when she used to teach all of us teachers who are teachers today, and she used to say in her workshops that we need to evolve our bodies. And by that, she meant our physical bodies, but also our energy bodies. Our energy bodies. And that was way back in the early 80s. And now here we are, fast moving forward. And all these toxins are on our planet, and we really need to evolve ourselves. The time is now, and I believe that the universe has created the sacred pause last year of 2020 in order for us to look inside at what we wanted in this world and look at our own traumas from the past, heal our traumas, but also to up level our health so we can face what the future has in store because it's an unknown. We don't know what's out there. And technology itself is going to keep on going. The language of technology will keep on going, but the language of energy is also very much a part of our stream coming into the future. I think science kind of weaves those two together and helping us to understand both of them. All right, so let's begin. Okay, so today I am going to tell you all about our aura, explain to you about what the aura is and why we need to keep it so strong. And I am also going to tune in to the kiddos, our children, our next generation. You may have children of your own, or you may work with children. And I'm going to teach you a few wonderful energy exercises from my mother's work and my own work to help strengthen the aura and help children as they are developing, for their physical body is developing, but also their aura is also developing. Help them stay strong and empowered, so that when their emotions are being rocked, or when they are facing toxins in the environment and they get allergies or they are sensitive, that they can do something about it. So that's what we're going to do today. All right. So let's go into the aura itself. Okay. Just looking at my notes. All right. Yeah. All right. So the aura, and maybe some of you may not know about the aura. The aura is something we all live with. Every living organism on this earth has an aura around it. If it is living, we have an aura around us. If we didn't have an aura, then we'd basically be dead. Our aura fills us up with vitality and energy in order to live. And of course, every single person's aura is different than another person's. While some people may be very joyous and bubbly, like me, another person may be very calm and very grounded. I would say everybody's aura is different. And within the aura, we have 7 different fields in our aura. So it's not just this amazing, what I call a protection suit. It is like an energy that tells the world who you are, but it also receives information from the world itself. It's like a two-way antenna that really picks up things in the environment, and it also brings about your own unique energy to the world. And this is a wonderful thing. Within the 7 fields of our aura, every single field has a story, but every single field, it's some people call it like a little bit of an onion skins going out, or the Russian dolls being within themselves, and they go down smaller and smaller and smaller. You've seen those little Russian dolls. That's kind of how our aura is. Our aura should extend out to the ends of our fingertips, but so many people have different sizes of aura. We can also get holes in our aura, tears in our aura. There may be dark spots in our aura for those of us who can see the aura. My mother, Donna Eden, can see the aura itself, and she says it's very much kind of like a myriad of shapes and different kinds of colors, different kinds of vibrations, even colors coming up. And so I often think that I'm so glad I don't see. I hear energy, I feel energy, and I smell energy. And I usually have pushed away my sight, which I don't want, because I don't want to see everything. It's sometimes bad enough to just hear everything. So that's the way I interpret much of the world. And all of us, from the time we were little, we had the intuitive sights. We had all of these things very, very open for children, and babies really do. It's almost like when babies are looking all around you, they're looking at shapes and colors and maybe even beings and spirits inside the room. I remember my own son. I was kind of jealous when my baby was born, because he was looking and laughing and smiling at everything else except me. And I got really jealous over whom was in the room. And I knew he was connecting with things and also looking in my particular field. It was, yeah, a little bit disheartening. So all children, from the time they are born, and you felt and saw and heard energy, all the different smells and sights and hearing and feeling energy, even knowing about energy. But as we go along, we get responsibilities in life as we grow up, and that sight and that connection to the other world starts to get smaller. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the development of the aura, and it's so fascinating to me. Now, before we do that, I wanted to explain a little bit about the aura. So the aura is around us, kind of like a protection field so that we don't get bombarded by energies outside. But some people have really strong auras and some people have not so strong auras. And so I am going to explain that a little bit. Those of you who don't know about the aura or can't see the aura, I'm going to tell you that you may have felt the aura. When you are little, maybe you had a brother or sister or a best friend, and maybe they were in the car with you, or maybe they were on the couch with you, and maybe they came too close to you, and you were screaming that they were too close to you. And really, every single time your brother or sister or your friend got closer because they were kind of irritating you and wanted to see what you were going to do, you would go, Mom, Dad, they're too close to me. You felt their energy even before they were touching you. But you may have been in a crowded kind of subway or train station or a bus station or even in a mall and in a line of some sort getting groceries, and maybe somebody was up against you too close. And even before looking back in the line, you felt them and kind of moved away. And then you looked back and someone was in your field. You felt it. Or maybe you knew that someone was looking at you from afar and you turned around and someone was looking at you. You felt it. It's this protection field. It's a protective space. It is your personal space of what you know. And so I help children really work with this space and really empower them to know this unique space that is purely theirs and different than someone else's. Now, the aura has been being talked about since about 500 BC, and that was with Pythagoras. Pythagoras talked about this luminous kind of field around human beings. And in paintings in the different Middle Ages, you would see in paintings that they would depict kind of like a glow around, especially saints in paintings, or yeah, like Christ or Jesus or Buddha. They all had a little bit of a glow. And I know that they say that Jesus himself and Buddha had an aura that was about 3 miles long or wide because they were so powerful in their energy field. And that's what happens when people do pray or meditate. Their field extends, or if they're in love, their field extends. But you have your moment to moment aura or color or vibration that is constantly shifting in your day-to-day life. Sometimes you'll wake up really, really happy in the day, and then you'll maybe get a phone call of something that really makes you sad. Well, then your aura will start closing in on you, and it's really, really hard to get your aura back to that place of being big and happy again. And so in that place, when your aura comes close in, then you can be affected even more by what people say or something in the environment that is coming your way. It affects you even more. So that two-way antenna that I was talking about, that antenna can pick up toxins in the environment. So you may be in a city and you may be somebody who is a country girl like me. I love my country. It's very difficult to be in a city for me because of the toxic fumes of the pollution in the city. And it's very difficult with even yeah, just the energy in a city. There's too many people, there's too many buildings, and I need my wide open spaces. Well, if your energy field is very, very weak and somebody has a sickness inside your office or inside the environment, you can pick up that illness pretty quick. Maybe you're on a plane and you don't know about your aura and how you can protect your aura, and you're just doing everything else trying to protect you, or just scared, and that will bring your aura in really, really tight as well. Well, you want your aura to be big and strong in order to have illnesses and toxins bounce off. And so today I'm going to also show you about that. I want to go back to some of the history. And so in about the the late 1800s, early 1900s, a lot of people were expanding and doing a lot of research about the aura, this biofield that they were calling it. In the late 1800s, Nikola Tesla created a machine called, I don't know if this was the name of his machine, because I know it, it got better over time, but the Kirlian photography that would take pictures of your aura. Nikola Tesla invented it, but then they began to make it even better in the early 1900s. And in about 1930, there was a professor, Dr. Harold Saxton Burr, who explored and researched. He wanted to know more about the aura itself. And so he took a look at animals who could regenerate their limbs. So like lizards who get their tail cut off and they could regenerate their tail. Well, he looked with his instruments at lizards, and he saw that when the tail got chopped off, there was this amazing pattern, a field of energy that before a tail would grow back was already there. It was like a pattern, a field, and he called these fields fields of life, or L fields. And they were so interesting. So he wanted to know more about this, that there was a field that the tail would grow into. And so in his research, he started researching unfertilized eggs. He wanted to know about babies and embryos. And so he started looking at the physical forms of the embryos, and he started looking at plants and realized that in plant form, like in the seed itself, there was also a form, a pattern that the seed would grow into that would create that tree. For instance, the acorn, the tiny little acorn that becomes the mighty oak tree. And there's always these fields of energy. So I always like to think that maybe within us, as we are little children, and if we are in the right circumstances in our environment, that we have love, we have touch, we have understanding, we have good parents and a good family, and there's not a lot of trauma, then does that baby grow up to become an empowered oak tree? And I love to think about that. And I often bring that to my students who want to step into their own empowerment. Maybe they could create their own field of energy that they can grow into. And I think that's the power of teachers. Teachers do this for students. If they're good teachers, if they're good teachers, they do this for their students, definitely. So your body definitely wants to be healthy. Your aura has a wisdom about it. Your body has a wisdom about it. Every single one of your cells has a wisdom to them. And it is about listening to the messages that your body is telling you. When you get the message, that's when we evolve. We evolve in that way. So I want to go through a little bit of the 7 fields of the aura, and then I'll come back and start to talk to you a little bit about how the aura is formed. So, because my PowerPoint wasn't working today, I'm going to show you what I did. And so I sometimes create like a little form. Here's my little alien being, a little form. And I make the aura fields out. And so you may want to do this, make a little form on a piece of paper. And as I go out, then you can kind of make a connection to each of the fields. So we have 7 fields of energy, okay, that are in our aura. We have our moment to moment aura that is constantly changing with vibration and color and different shapes from what we are doing during the day. And, but there are some fields that just stay within our aura. So the first field coming out from our physical is the etheric layer. Now, my mother says that the physical field is very much more dense and difficult to change, more than the energy body itself. And the energy body really works with the physical. When you get an illness, it's the aura itself that connects in with that illness, and then it spirals in to the physical body. But you can also do it in the opposite way. So if you get a sprained wrist, and that was a physical thing, then that sprained wrist can move out into the aura itself, and then you don't feel good. Your mood just doesn't feel good when you have a sprained wrist, and you can't quite get your energy back or your energy up to be happy again. So it works in both ways, but it really is the aura that meets the environment first. Okay, so let's go back to the etheric. The etheric is the first field from your physical body. Your etheric sometimes speaks very, very loud because it is what other people see in you. It may not be who you are. It's almost like a mask we wear in public. Oh, I want to tell you that these fields that I am speaking about are the fields that my mother explains and sees. And sometimes they match up with some of the other intuitive readers, and some of them are a little different. So they may be new to you. Okay, so that first field, etheric, is the one that mirrors us. It mirrors our energy and what's going on. But it is also, like, I like to think of it kind of like in astrology, we have our sun sign. So I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra, but on your ascendant or your rising sign, it's the first planet on the horizon when you were born. That is the sign that sometimes people see you more than your sun sign. And mine happens to be Leo. It's the lion. So when I'm up on stage, especially with my mom or myself, sometimes with this big hair of lion's mane, I am very boisterous and I am very, very social and I'm very, very dramatic, as you can tell. And so many people come up to me and say, "Are you a Leo?" And when I come off the stage and they say, "God, that was a great performance," or "That was a really wonderful talk that you gave." And I usually go, "Thank you, thanks so much." And I come back down into my own character, which is Libra. Libras are always trying to find the balance, and they're very much in harmony and never want to kind of shine over somebody else. So that's kind of how the etheric sometimes to me looks like. Somebody is seeing you, but they're not really seeing your essence. And maybe when they sit down with you and one on one, then they see your depth. And so this is also a field that so many people talk about as the health field. The health field, it can show up your illnesses in this field because it is the one that meets the world first. And so I can sometimes read this in someone's field too. It's a very important field. This is also the field that will pick up the aura colors. You won't get the other fields so much. I don't think they have developed a machine to get into the other fields. It is the etheric that they're going to pick up. And the etheric is the first one that healers begin to kind of start to pick up in color. If they feel something, this is the etheric that they begin to feel. So the next field is very, very thin. This is what my mother sees. Sometimes other people will see it, but she sees kind of like a thin band around the etheric, and it almost acts like a buffer, like a speaker on a sound system. It acts like a buffer that will help when shock and trauma come your way. It won't be so intense on your physical being. And what she says, yes, shock and trauma can come in, but usually it is for your own growth. So the etheric field, that first one I was talking about, sometimes has a color in it many times. The protective field usually doesn't. It's very kind of gray and misty. And then the next field is it has two kinds of energies here. And I usually call it, my mother calls it the emotional mental band. It's a field of energy that contains your perceptions about life. So this is, if you are very much a feeler, so we call it the kinesthetic, uh, this would be the band that would be first in you. If you are somebody who hears kind of vibrations or hears in the way of, maybe you're a musician and you really hear the tones in music, or you hear things other people don't hear, that's a tonal, and that energy is first. And that's what I am. I pick up tones in my field. The other one is a visual. A visuals has to see, they have big pictures of their ideas, but they also have to see, and they usually bring in that intuitive sense of sight. So they see colors, they see shapes in your body when things are off. And that's a visual, and that would be your first, would come forward. And then the other one goes into the digital. These are four sensory types. These are how you perceive the world. The other one is about the knowing, very much up in the head and very logical, but that is an intuitive sense that some people don't really acknowledge so much. It's an amazing sense. It's a knowing. So that's the emotional mental field. It's the perceptions of what you are perceiving in the world. Sometimes other people don't get this with you. It is a inside job. And so it's really nice to know that about your partner or your kids. What kind of sense do they work with in the world? Okay, so after that, let me take a sip of water. This is a field that my mother calls the morphogenic field. It is named after Rupert Sheldrake, who also created this field, and it is a habit field in the body. It's a habit field. And so this is the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth field, fourth band, if you are drawing on your little figure, and it's the habit field. So if you have an illness that keeps coming back, that will show up in that field. If you have like a debilitating illness that you have cured your cancer and the cancer comes back, that is a field that you really need to work with. But it's also habit. That this is also habits in the way of something in life that you can get rid of. Maybe it's a habit with alcoholism. Sometimes in this field, I see that it could be a generational kind of um, field or a wound from a father or mother who were alcoholic or drug addicts that come down. And that is something that can really be healed if you are listening to the message, because you can shift and change your own vibrations. And we have found that, especially Bruce Lipton is doing a lot of work in this field of energy. So this also has a color. Sometimes it comes in with a strong force when someone needs to work on that lesson. And I know somebody who brought green into her morphogenic field, and she had no money. And she, even when she was working in an art field, she didn't even know how to even charge for her work, and money just slipped through her fingers. Well, when she got green in the morphogenic field, she began to get really successful and really know that world of business. Really awesome. So it could work really well, but also a vibration can come in that brings up a lesson for you, and that might be an illness. So the next field is your celestial field. Your celestial field connects with your own God, whomever that God is. It connects with the angelic realm. It is when you pray or when you meditate. This is the field you connect with. When you connect to your own God or goddess, your divine essence. And this is the field that you connect with. This is the celestial field. And usually your aura gets bigger because you find that there's a little bit of faith in your dark times when you are in that state of bliss. The next field that my mother sees is the life color. And this is a field that I very much a part of my a heart and a part of my business. I read people's life colors, and the life color comes in at the moment of birth and it goes to the end of your death. And it is your lessons and challenges in life. It is your spiritual path. It is what you should be doing in life. And it's an amazing thing. It's really about your mission in life and how you connect up with people, who you are attracted to in the way of a relationship, your connection with your children, the connection with the world, and how you see the world. It's an amazing field, and that really brings out your individuality. And then the last one is what my mother calls the Celtic weave, and it is this field of energy that is the protector around you. When somebody comes to her and they have a debilitating illness and the doctors have given them a few months to live, she sees in their aura, if they don't have a lot of figure eights in their field, big figure eights, small figure eights, she says to make them with your hands, big and little, all around you. That's the first exercise I want to give you, is create figure eights in your field. Put on some good music and dance figure eights in your field. That's something else I do. I do energy medicine dance, and figure eights are a big part of it. Tiny figure eights that weave in all of your energies. That is your meridians, your chakras, your strange flows, or often called radiant circuits, all of the energies in your field. But the aura gets really, really strong. So when she sees a lot of figure eights in someone's aura, she knows that they're very healthy and strong. But if she doesn't, she tells them to make figure eights. This is the best thing to do for children. If a children cuts themselves, that is something that is a really good thing for empowering a child, is to teach them how to create figure eights. And so if they cut themselves on their arm or their knee, that will start to move into the aura. And yes, it hurts. But if you start making little figure eights around that in all different directions, almost like creating a little flower, that will start to ease in its tension and ease in its pain, and it really soothes a wound. And so if you have any kinds of wounds in your body, even a backache, have your partner just make soft figure eights in your field. It's the best thing to empower a child when you, as the parent, aren't there, to just bring in figure eights into their field. I often bring in scarves with children. So creating figure eights with scarves. And we go outside, because outside is the best thing to do. Also to ground yourself, going outside in nature. Children are spending way too much inside, especially in the last 2 years, on computer screens, and going outside in nature and grounding themselves, especially taking off their shoes, because those rubber soles are not allowing that connection into the earth. The earth is filled with ions, and you want that energy from the Mother Earth to come into them. They say that Even inflammation goes down. Your mood gets better. Blood pressure goes down if you're walking barefoot on the earth itself. I want to tell you something before I go on, which is a very interesting thing. When my son was a baby, and it was very hard for me to calm him down. Even everything I was doing, well, rocking was always a good thing, but when he got a little older and he started teething, ooh, that was really hard. One of the things I did was just take him outside, take off my shoes, and he was in my arms and he was teething, and we would rock and we would rock. And only taking him outside with my bare feet began to soothe him, and he began to go to sleep. The other thing is, I would rock in a figure eight. That is so wonderful. Figure eights are so healing, right down to your DNA. Right down to your DNA. Every single cell has a figure eight. Every single organ has a figure eight. But we live in a culture that is filled with stress. We make stress on ourselves. When we get stressed out for any little reason, our brains aren't crossing over. We want our brains to cross over. That's the figure eight movement. But when we don't, we get what we call homolateral. It means this side is going to this side of the body, this brain is going to this side of the body. We want them to cross over. If your brains are not crossing over from anything from fluorescent lights to being in traffic, little tiny stresses can make everything not cross over. When they don't cross over, you can get depressed. You can't find great creativity in your life. You can't get well. Everything revolves around that. And that's why I say, my mother says, figure eights in your field, figure eights in your field. It's so important. Okay, so let's go to, let me see how much time I have. Let's go to, let me see where I'm going. Let me get a drink of water. I have such a short amount of time to teach you so much. Okay, so let's go right into the place of conception. I'm going to tell you about how the aura develops. So one of the most interesting things that I have known, because I went through 17 years of fertility journey in order to have 2 near-death experiences. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. In these near-death experiences, I actually lost my aura, because when you get closer and closer to death, your aura begins to dissipate. And so it was an intense time for me. I did it twice because I wasn't getting the message. I wasn't getting the message. I wanted to have babies in the way I was going to have babies and be pregnant. And it just wasn't happening. And I am so happy I let go of the plan of how I wanted things to go and just let it go to the universe, because I have a wonderful, almost 4-year-old boy downstairs through adoption, and I'm in my mid-50s, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I got him on the day he was born. But there was a lot of things that happened, and I feel like it was brought to me because this is what I do. I work with energy and I work with children. And so he's had a lot of challenges from both his bio mom and his bio dad. They were beautiful beings, and I'm still in contact with his mother. Love her to pieces, but they were young and they had a lot of emotional difficulties and emotional traumas. And I believe that, it is so important to keep you as a pregnant woman very balanced and out of stress, because the stress goes right into the baby. And especially when children are little, they are like sponges picking up from their environment because they're curious. They're curious about how to work in this world. They're learning from their parents. They're learning from the ones around them. So they're like sponges. It's like wanting to be like daddy, wanting to be like mommy. And if mommy or daddy are in trauma, or if they are yelling, well, then they'll learn to yell. They'll pick up the trauma, especially if they're highly sensitive. And a lot of children are coming into this world very highly sensitive and very empathic. And I know some of you out there who are adults are too, just like me. I'm super sensitive. That's why I went to those near-death experiences as well. Super sensitive. It was from IVF, and I basically OD'd on estrogen and got blood clots all over my body, both arms, both legs. 5 passed over my heart and my lungs, and I feel like a miracle that I'm still here. I am. All right, so that was a little bit off track, but coming back to my child, lots of challenges. And so I had to really go back to their lifestyles to see how he is now. I mean, it's still going on. And anytime the mother or the father is going through something, I usually call them up and I go, what's going on? Because my child is really being affected. And when I can when I can separate from them, especially the mother. Now, I love her, always want to connect with my child for sure, but I'm the mother now, and her energies go into him. That umbilical cord going to the child is so strong, so strong. And it's so important for especially an adopted mom, adopted parents, and adopted child to have that bond. Doing skin on skin is so important for children who aren't adopted too, just being connected. So let me go back a little bit. Sorry, I went ahead. So let's go back to the moment of conception, looking at my time. Moment of conception. Let me just pause this for a moment. All right, the moment of conception. What's really interesting is that even before conception, there's this wonderful book called Spirit Babies by Walter Mahian. I think that's how I'm pronounce his name. I even met the guy because I was going through fertility issues, and I love this book so much. And he would read, he's on the other side now, but the book is great. He would read if there were souls coming into parents' biofields, parents' auras. And it was so interesting. And so he often sees, or he would often see that there was almost a glow coming in when a soul was near to be conceived by the couple. And so read the book, it's fantastic. But they also researched this moment of conception where the egg and the sperm meet. And I don't remember, it was 2011. I'm looking at my notes. 2011 at the Northwest University in Chicago. You can look it up. The moment of conception of the egg and the sperm, there is a spark of light. So it is about energy. It is the spark of light. And they also saw that if the egg was very, very healthy, the spark of light would be even more intense. I thought that was so interesting. Well, anyways, the aura begins to get formed in this tiny little specimen. It begins to get formed right there. But really, a bigger aura is the mother. The mother is really in the protective field with the baby inside her. She is the baby's aura. It is the protective field. And so while the little specimen, little embryo is getting bigger and bigger and developing in their physicality, the energy field and everything inside is also developing. There's a multitude of things happening, and we read in books that when the eyes form, when the mouth forms, when the hearing comes in, when the feeling comes in, well, there's so many other things happening. A whole different time, maybe I'll be able to explain all that because it's also a class unto itself. But the chakras are forming, the meridians, the predecessors before meridians are the strange flows, the energy pathways that connect up everything, the microcosmic orbit that circles around the embryo to keep it healthy and strong is there too. So it begins to form, but at the moment of birth, the aura really comes in to strengthen, to help the baby stay here on planet Earth, to stay here in the human field, in this physical field. And still, while the newborn is, oh, I'm going to stop right here. Hey, Nancy, can you just clip all this? I'm going to start over a little bit because I'm a little bit, my words aren't coming. I'll be right back. All right, let's talk about conception. Now, just before conception, I want to tell you about a wonderful book. I'm stopping this right now too. Fart. Wait a second, Nancy. Okay, Holly, I've been talking with Nancy so much that I called you Nancy, but I'm seeing your face as Holly. Okay, I'm starting right now. Okay. So even before conception, there's something else that happens. And I want to tell you about an amazing book. And this book is called Spirit Babies by Walter Makian. I don't know if I'm saying that last name right, but I did meet him and I went to see him for a reading to see if there was babies in my field when I really wanted to get pregnant. And that's what he does. This is about spirit babies. And so he could read in people's fields if there was a soul coming in to the aura. And usually that would really change and shift, especially the mother's aura. And at the moment of conception, that really does shift the mother's aura as well. And that glow around the mother that sometimes people say is that there is that kind of another energy coming in. Her aura begins to glow because she is also connecting up with that other energy of this soul. But of course, in so many circles, the soul goes in and out, not knowing if it is going to attach or not. Even after the baby is born, soul goes in and out. We'll get to that in a moment. But in this place where she is glowing and conception has happened, she is very much connected to the other world, mostly because of this being that's inside of her as well. This is a sacred time, and this being is also connected to the other side. So I believe that there are some energy connections there between mother and child even before conception happens. Sometimes mothers dream about their child before they conceive. And at the moment of conception, this is a really interesting thing because in 2011 at the Northwest University in Chicago, they were researching when the sperm and the egg came together, and they saw this spark of light. Isn't that cool? There's a spark of light, like energy coming in. And they said that when the egg is even healthier, that the spark was even greater. I think that's so wonderful. So as the embryo is beginning to develop, the eyes, the ears, the touch, that's all coming in, the smells coming in, even in the physical body, they're growing their limbs. Well, there's a multitude of energy pathways also coming in as well. The chakras, the microcosmic orbit, the strange flows or radiant circuits that are the predecessors to meridians. All these energy pathways are also forming that sometimes we don't hear about in books. And I love that just knowing about that is all being strengthened and developed within the mother. And it's so important to have the mother be so healthy and at the same time, really, really stress-free, without stress, because that goes right into the baby that is forming. And so I want to go back to my own child, and loved the parents, really loved the parents. But within the mother's 9 months, she had a lot of emotional conflict about whether to keep the baby or not. And um, and a lot of trauma in life itself. So I believe that went right down into my son. And she was also smoking marijuana cigarettes. Now, I don't have anything, any qualms about that, but not in pregnancy. Not in pregnancy, because you're dealing with another soul. Because I do feel like marijuana has helped so many people with illnesses and to help them relax, but not when you're pregnant. You're dealing with another soul, and that little soul is really trying to develop themselves. And so it was an accident, but at the end of the 9 months, I think it was around 7 or 8 months, someone slipped her a marijuana cigarette laced with methamphetamine, which caused the baby to go into premature labor. So my child was also in ICU for 10 days, hooked up to a lot of different machines. And I was doing energy work on him, very much so, and bonding with him, skin on skin, which is so important. It's like when the baby comes out, that's when their aura begins to form, because it is about really keeping your strength and protection here on earth. And it begins to really come in, but the mother itself is still really connected to the baby. She has really connected with the baby for all those 9 months. My child is an adopted child, so she didn't want to connect to really help me bond with the baby. And so I did a lot of skin on skin and really cloaking him in an auric embrace. And so when somebody does have a child out of their own body, many times in my field, I am a Waldorf school teacher too. And so in anthroposophy, they call it the Madonna's cloak. The mother embraces the baby in an aura of protection. And I love that. It creates a bonding, it creates skin on skin. But in our day and age, with so many things happening and a lot of trauma, a lot of stress in people's lives, things are happening where even babies cannot latch on to the nipple. They have difficulty in so many ways, but that skin on skin is so important to help them. So the baby's soul goes in and out in utero, but also when they come out of the mother. Sometimes in many different cultures, the cultures don't name the baby for about 3 months, because they know there's this kind of ebb and flow with the soul, not knowing if they're going to really incarnate in the body or not, or be strong in their auric field. And so that is a very interesting, important thing to know. So I usually tell new parents to figure eight the baby, figure eight him, really bring him down and connect him into this earth, and also connect him into the ground. In other cultures, I was a Middle Eastern dancer for 30 years, and one of the things that I really did within my classes was to teach women how to get pregnant through their body, through the dance. And so many women were getting pregnant in my classes. It was so wonderful. Couldn't get pregnant myself. That was huge, but we're not going there. But in those cultures in the Middle East, it was a birth ritual. Middle Eastern dance, belly dance was a birth ritual, and they would use the contractions and the breathing to calm themselves, to help the baby release into the world. And sometimes they would have a hole dug out in the earth. So the baby was just connecting with Mother Earth right away, grounding their energies because they're so connected to the other world that they need to ground to this world in order to stay. And so that's what they would do very quickly. So right when my son came out of ICU, it was the summer solstice. So I went straight to the grass and straight to just put him in the grass and connect him and make him hear the sounds in the trees and the sounds of the insects that were happening. It was down in the south that I picked him up. It is an amazing thing for children to really connect to the earth, and children do. Children definitely do. All right. So when the baby is born, the top of their head, the fontanelle, is a little bit open and pliable. It's the soft spot on the baby. They say that is very much connected to the other world. And when the baby begins to really claim life, that begins to close up. And it actually takes, some people say, about 7 years. So when the baby turns 7, that's when their adult teeth are coming in, and that's when they really incarnate. And you don't have to wait 7 years to know if your baby's going to ebb and flow and be here or not. It's just this part right up here begins to close. But really quickly, in the first year, the baby begins to harden their head. And when that happens, the aura begins to soften up and come around. And that's a really important thing. And just being aware that this is that connection to the other world. As a Waldorf school teacher, up until the age of 7, the child is very dreamy like because they are connected to that other world. And it's so important to tell children to, if they start talking about the fairies in the garden or their invisible friends, open them up to keep that intuition alive if that's what you want to do, because it's so important. It is the language of the future, is energy, technology, energy, and science in between. But it is the language of the future. And these children that are being born, I see them with opalescence, so pastel colors all around them, and rainbow kids, opalescent kids, rainbow kids, coming from the same source. Rainbow kids have vibrant colors of pink and purple and red and blue. And then the pastel colors of the opalescents are very soft, and that's their soft energy. I have a rainbow kid downstairs, very wild and vibrant energy. But these two groups are coming in and just really bringing unconditional love to the planet, sometimes even being born into families with trauma or drug addicts or alcoholics, because they bring in a different energy. But these children also are coming into our world. It is filled with toxins. And so a lot of these children are very intuitive, very psychic, but also very sensitive to the environment. And that's why the aura is so important too. Kids pick up on things in the environment. They're like little sponges. Like I was saying before, they pick up negativity, they pick up dark things in houses, in buildings, and they're picking up toxins as well. And so I want to tell you a little bit about me and myself. As a child, I was super, super shy and always super, super sensitive. I didn't have any friends. And so I kept to myself, and I thought, I was also hiding a little bit. I didn't want to be called on in school. I wanted a friend, but I was so shy. I didn't talk for a long time in my youth, for about 7 years, but only if someone talked to me, I talked, but I observed the world. And that's usually what shy kids do, but they pull in their field. They think they're pulling in and hiding their body, but they're also pulling in their field. When you pull in your field, you are much more attracting that on the outside, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And so you want your aura to be big and puffed up on the outside. You don't want anything to come in. And so kids that are very, very social and very, very boisterous have big fields of energy. But sometimes because they're so out there and really in the environment, really picking up things in the environment, sometimes they can get detached from their aura. So it's really good to help children empower themselves with their own individuality. And so I'm going to give you an exercise right here, and it's also in my bonus, my daily routine for the aura. But when children are pulled in too tight, you can just tell a child to, from their pubic bone all the way up, take their hand, the center line, and come all the way up above their head and out. And then you can even imagine a color. Tell them to bring in a color. And they're opening up their aura in both sides. It's like butterfly wings, opening up the aura. It's very, very good for a shy child. And that helped me so much. And for a child who is like bouncing off the wall, tell them to go the other way. Hand down, make an arc on the outside of your aura and come down the center of your body and out and in. This is really good for children who are very, very hyper and need to go to sleep. You can even do that for a child in front of you. Really, really good. It's so important to help the child's aura because the child is developing, and they're also developing in their self-esteem and confidence and their self-love. These are things that you need to teach children right off the bat, because we're, as adults, we didn't learn this in school. We didn't learn about self-love unless a parent was, or a caregiver, a guardian was telling us about this. Self-love, that is such an important thing. And also self-esteem, bringing in self-esteem to the child, so important. And that begins to help their aura stay strong. Let's see, where do I want to go next? Oh, I want to tell you a little bit before we're almost coming to the end of our class, I think, this presentation. And I want to tell you a little bit about, a little bit more about my son, because my son has night terrors, and it is, I believe, very much from what he went through in utero. It's, there's not a lot of things on the internet about night terrors and what to do about them. They're very different than nightmares. Usually the child with a nightmare, they remember it the next day and usually can go to sleep pretty easily after a nightmare, after you rock them. And rocking a child is so wonderful for their nervous system. Even doing the shh, shh, it's like the waves coming in from an ocean, really calming them. That sometimes helps my child with night terrors, but it's awful. It's almost like I'm the enemy, and I'm the enemy on the battlefield, and he wants nothing to do with me. He's flailing his arms. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. It's almost like there's a different entity within him, and that's what parents often say. So I've done a lot of energy exercises for him. And especially, I love that I'm his mom, because I can really do the energy work and really see a difference, because he came from another source. It wasn't me. And if it was me, would know what to do in pregnancy, but he came from another source. And not knocking any parents who have had stress in their lives with pregnancy, because that's about life. Sometimes you can't get away from stress, so don't make yourself feel guilty. There's too much parent guilt in the world. So night terrors, some of the things that I have done with him energetically, one thing is figure eighting. Figure eighting is field. Figure eighting is field, especially if my energy doesn't work with the night terror, or maybe he's in a tantrum. You could use this for tantrums too. Sometimes the other parent's energy, because maybe it's a different energy than you. I have very fiery energy, and so my kid could connect to that and get very fiery and tantrumy himself. My partner is very stable and grounded, so sometimes I give him to my partner, and then all of a sudden he's grounded. It works in both ways. It's really good to have somebody else there. You know, it does take uh, a family or a tribe to really raise a child. And it's really good to have a support system there, especially if you're a single mom. So that is one of the things I do, figure eights to make him fall asleep really soft and easy all the way down to his feet in his field. Sometimes he doesn't want me to touch him, but I also smooth his aura, smooth it down. And I say, shh. That helps too. The other thing, which is really kind of interesting, I turn him upside down. And almost, you know, the fight, flight, or freeze technique, or sorry, fight, flight, or freeze response that happens in adults and in kids. Sometimes it comes and you don't know what to do. Well, sometimes that blood leaves your brain to go into the limbs in order to run, to freeze, or to let's fight or fight or fight. And so when I turn him upside down, the blood comes back to his brain. It was one of these moments that I just did it. I did it, and all of a sudden he calmed down. And he does this with tantrums too, sometimes, not all the time it doesn't work. It's so interesting. And then other thing that I learned from him, although Temple Grandin, who is an amazing speaker for Asperger's syndrome and for the cattle industry. I just love her, and look her up, incredible woman, but she has taught so much about who she is dealing with Asperger's. And one of the things with Asperger's syndrome is that they don't like to be touched, especially in stress, but it's very hard for them to get hugs. Well, she created for herself a squeezing machine that she wasn't getting touch, and her mom really wanted to touch her, but it just was impossible. She invented a squeezing machine that came in at her, and she would pull a lovey, and this would come in at her, and it would calm her and make her comfortable. Well, sometimes with babies, they wrap them in the little baby burrito in that same way. They're tucked in, or parents can tuck in their child in that same way. It creates a little bit of a comfort. Well, my child one night when he was having a night terror, he squeezed himself between the couch and the pillows. And I was trying to get at him. And then I realized he was self-soothing himself. He squeezed in there and relaxed and fell asleep. And I knew, oh my God, another technique. So that's what I do. I start tucking him in or moving pillows. That's just one of those other things that I do. But coming towards the end of this particular class, some of the other things that you can do. So I said about nature, grounding, taking off the shoes and going barefoot. Another thing to do is really cleansing your space, especially if a child has had a nightmare or a night terror, or some traumatic thing has happened in the house. Maybe you've moved into a house and other people's energies are there. Well, just take a sage stick and just light it and make figure eights all over your space. You'll feel the cleansed energy. Children really react to that. And you can also figure eight the child's energy with the sage stick or a Palo Santo stick. They're around here somewhere. The Palo Santo stick really helps even deeper, heavier stuff. Palo Santo stick, it comes from Peru. And then the other one is sweetgrass. Bringing in sweetgrass brings a little bit more positive influence, and you light it and you make figure eights all around. Kids love to do this. They love to do the figure eights all around, just cleansing their space after trauma, because trauma sets into the aura, then spirals into the physical field. And then you can always give them colors with any exercise you do. And my free bonus gift is filled with exercises for you, filled with exercises. And so I'm not going to give you any more because there's so many there. It's a daily routine that you can do for your children. And I would say do it yourself, because whatever is happening to the child, sometimes they're picking it up from you, the caregiver, the parent, the guardian, or even the teacher. That we all need to strengthen and balance ourselves. Or even if you are a practitioner, strengthen yourself. You know this, strengthen yourself before working with children, because you don't want them picking up something in your field, especially when their aura isn't strong enough in their particular unique self. All right, so today I have talked about the aura and how awesome it is and how it relates to child's development somewhat. And that we really need to strengthen our aura, because if our aura is not strong, then we can pick up things in the environment. We could pick up viruses in the environment. This is about your immune system, is the aura, is part of it. So you've also learned, sorry, my nose itches. You've learned about the 7 fields in the aura itself. And you may want to know more about this, and you just continue to follow me, connect with me, connect with my website, Energy Medicine Woman, connect with my YouTube channels. There are so much on my YouTube channels that I have learned from my mother, and also new energy exercises, always created from what I am picking up with children and adults. So they're all there as well. Go and check them out. Energy Medicine Woman, Energy Medicine for Kids on YouTube. Please stay in touch and sign up for my newsletter, please, because you will find out about my online program later on this year. I have Energy Medicine Magic for kids and their families. It's going to be a fabulous program, a 5-week program that is really interactive and has lots of creativity and getting out into nature, everything that I've done here and more. My online program, and I've also written 2 big books that haven't been published yet, so you will find out about that, and a whole series for kids alone, tiny little board books about their energy. And so please get on my newsletter to find out about that. My name is Tanya Dahlin, and I am so happy to be a part of this summit. And I'm so excited to really look at what all the other presenters and what they're sharing too. Thank you so much.